Order, and we're going to begin. Roger Conrad is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
This is where she always sits.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roger. And our first order of business tonight is going to be the swearing in of our newest commission member, Heather Stobo. Welcome, Heather, and we'll welcome you a little more thoroughly after the swearing in is done. Steve is
Commissioner Stobo, if you could join me at the lectern, please. I'm pleased to give you the oath of office tonight on behalf of our elected city clerk, Rhonda Besor.
Oh, thank you.
So if you could please raise your right hand and then repeat after me. I, your name,
Heather Stobo,
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations again. And I get you to sign this.
Okay, while Heather is on her way back to her seat, I thought I would just fill everybody in. We had a wonderful interviewing session for this position, for this open seat. There were 5 very strong candidates. It was a tough decision because there were multiple qualified people. But we felt that Heather just fit the bill and has the skills that we're looking for, and one very important quality that you all put on the table, which is to bring a little young blood to the commission. So we are so excited to welcome you. And Heather, I would just like to give you just a couple minutes if there's anything that you want to say.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for including me, and I'm very excited. I really look forward to it.
So we're going to actually be adjourning this meeting when we go through the established agenda and reconvening a second meeting. And at that time, we'll talk about committee assignments because we have a draft of how we might reduce committees now that Heather is with us to make use of her talents. So, roll call.
Commissioner Moore. Here. Commissioner Stobo.
Here.
Commissioner Conrad.
Here.
Commissioner Harmon.
Here.
Commissioner Hirsch.
Here.
Vice Chair Addison.
Here.
Chair Golden.
Here. I do not think we have any presentations tonight, but it sure is delightful to see 3 people sitting in the audience. It might be a first. So welcome, audience members. Any public comment?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Susan? You state your name and your address for the record, please.
Susan Stinsmulen, Amon, 291 Avenida del Recreo, Ojai Valley, California. I just wanted to be here to say that I didn't know that the last meeting was going to be my last meeting. I didn't know that we were interviewing so quickly, but I'm so happy that Heather is here to take my place. But I just wanted to say goodbye to you all because, like I said, I didn't know the last meeting was my last meeting. So there'll be more. I think we're going to do a city council thank you thing. But I just want to say how great it has been to work with you all. And just seeing you up there and me here, I just feel like it's sad, and I'm happy and sad. And so anyway, continue to do all the great things that you've come up with that are increasing the arts in our city. And I love you all, really. So Heather, welcome. I hope you've had as much fun and productive activity as I've had over the last 12 and a half years.
Thank you, Susan. And Susan, you may not be up here at the podium, but you are here, believe me. Everything that you've done, your stamp is on the Arts Commission. And I am twisting Susan's arm in the hopes that she will have enough work, that being the perfectionist that she is, that will be okay with her to have a show, a city gallery show this year.
Yes.
Along with a really nice, big going away party. A little gala presentation for Susan. So we're hoping that we can pull that off.
You're here.
So here. So thank you, Susan. Okay.
I'm really disappointed because I always sat next to Susan, and it was so entertaining. And I'm going to miss you enormously, Susan. Thank you so much for helping me to connect with the Art Commission and for all that you've done over the 12 years.
I don't want to turn this into anything, but I just wanted to say goodbye because I didn't last time. So.
Well, we're all choking up is what it really amounts to.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Susan, we think you're really wonderful, and all the years that you were chair, I think you were the quintessential power behind the Arts Commission, and I really appreciate that, and I've learned a lot from you too. So thank you so much.
Ditto.
And I'm going to miss you a lot because Susan was our ordinance specialist, and we're going to get right back into all of those public art things. So we might be in touch.
Anytime. I love you, Steve.
So we'll go right to approval of minutes.
Okay, I move we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? I figured y'all knew that. Finding no discussion, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Steve, the minutes stand approved as written. And we're going to go right to committee reports and action items, and we're going to start with Lifetime Achievement in the Arts Award, Michael.
Well, we have a number of nominees for this, and I'll review those for everyone's edification. The people that we're considering are Linda Taylor, Tex Gall, Karen Lewis, and Colette Anwar. And my suggestion and how I would like to go forward is to have a committee meeting of the awards committee before our next meeting of the commission, at which time the committee will review these nominees and come up with a recommendation to the Arts Commission for the, what would that be, the April commission meeting. So that's what I suggest.
Does that suit the desires of the rest of the commissioners, that Michael and, who's on your committee? Michael, it's awards committee is Roger.
Well, yeah, Roger, and then I believe it's going to be Heather.
And Heather, yeah, right.
I don't think so.
No?
No. Actually, at this point in time, there are only two of you on that committee, which is okay because it's an ad hoc committee. You're not spending any money. You're only meeting once to do this.
Is that the way we've done it in the past?
No, it is not.
Is there a reason we're changing it?
Chair Addison?
Well, it's a way of narrowing down from the initial large list of
potential awardees to a smaller list, which I just presented. And of course, we have the opportunity here to discuss or advocate or speak against any of those particular nominees. But then for the committee to get together and, having listened to any comments that the commissioners may have made, to come up with a singular recommendation. It's just a way of simplification and gradually paring away the underbrush, if you will.
I will note that because the committees are, have been shuffled, we have a new member, and we've had to shuffle around a little bit, that at the present time, the draft committee assignments puts just Michael and Roger on this committee, that another person could attend this meeting, one other person. We can't have more than one, correct, Steve? But we could have one other. So if someone is really, really interested in joining Michael and Roger and discussing the candidates that were mentioned a few minutes ago, they could do that. All you have to do is let Michael know you're interested, and he'll invite you to that meeting. But only one of you can come and actually be part of the discussion. Anyone can come and watch. It'll be does not have to be an open meeting, actually, because it's a one-time thing. It's really an ad hoc. Am I explaining that correctly?
I
Brown
didn't hear any issues with your explanation.
Okay, thank you. So let Michael know if you feel very strongly and you want to speak to a candidate at the awards committee meeting.
We could do that in email too, couldn't we? If we wanted to voice our opinion on those candidates? Or is that a serial thing?
Well, yeah, at that point, you're, I mean, there's a, you know, I guess it really depends. If you have 3 members who are assigned to that committee and then they receive that communication, then that would tip that to 4. And so at that point, that's really a deliberation that should be taking place publicly.
Okay.
So with 2
What if-
members, we can have 1 email communication, but
Okay.
no more than 1.
So if members were to communicate only to Michael, and Michael were not to send that out to anyone else, you were to keep that private? In other words, if I were to email Michael and say, I have some feelings, here they are, for you to bring up when you meet with Roger, would that be okay?
Right, the danger there, as we discussed, is it's you just have to be very conscious of that, because it's very easy to, very innocuously send something
Reply all.
along and then
Okay.
have somebody, have another idea and then, forward that in a body of an email, and then pretty soon you've reached that. So, yeah, you can do it that way. You just have to make sure that the chair is very conscious that they're not then passing that along to
Right.
to a majority.
So you can singly email
Okay.
Michael, who's the chair, any comments you want to about any of these 5 or these 4
Okay.
Nominees.
And then are we still voting on it, though?
And then
I mean,
it'll come back in April.
Come back in April
here.
with a single nominee from the committee.
Okay.
Which then the commission, excuse me for jumping in, could technically reject if they wanted to. They could send it back to the committee. I just want to make that clear. It's not a rubber stamp process for the
Yeah.
commission.
Right.
I guess my problem with that is that I just feel like it's a commission function to award that award, and if we don't have, I mean, everything's it's different now because of the different changes in the meetings. I understand that. That was my.
My understanding is that the way it's structured now, that this meeting is our opportunity as members of the commission to speak about these 4 people who have been nominated. And that's Linda Taylor, Ted Gall, Karen Lewis, and Colette Anwar. And this is the opportunity in a public session for everyone to voice their support or qualms that they have about any of these nominees. And then taking into consideration those remarks, the committee will then meet and weigh in the balance all of the remarks and make a single recommendation to the commission.
And if you wanted to add a name for Roger and Michael to consider, this would be the appropriate time also to add a name to that list. So we could, Michael, if you wanted to, you could just start and go down the table and ask each commissioner if they have any
I
thoughts
will
on
do
this.
just that. Mimi, do you have any thoughts that you want to share with us?
I think that they're all strong candidates. Of the four, my personal support would go to Karen Lewis or Linda Taylor.
And Heather?
Yeah, as jumping in here, I don't really have a suggestion, but actually I would like to be part of the committee. Is that a possibility? I don't mean to take anyone's opportunity to email away.
Be fine with me.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Well, if I
Excellent.
could
Okay.
interject, you have that as an agenda item later on, so it would probably be best to hold off on the discussion
Okay.
on the committee reassignments until you get to that special agenda and that item.
Okay. Roger?
I think I would favor Colette Alwar, mainly because he's been instrumental in helping us with our film program. He's also been incredibly supportive of the Film Society, and I think the timing is so special to give him an award at this particular point. So that would be my candidate.
And Linda?
I also think they're all very strong contenders. I wouldn't object to any of them getting it. And if I had to pick one person, I would probably pick Linda Taylor as an educator and an artist. She has just retired. She's also very active in OSA. I just feel that she's such a value to our community. All these people are, so. But if I have to pick one.
I feel
Barbara?
I feel the same. Each of the candidates are excellent, but I would favor Khaled Alawar. He has been supportive of every arts opportunity in the city, and never hesitates to help.
Christine?
Yeah, well, I would be interested in, I don't know if you're prepared to do this, but I would like to know the last 3-4 years, what particular field the award was given in. So I'm thinking we gave 2 years ago to David Burry, and that was architecture. And, sorry, James. So we gave to architecture a couple of years ago, and then we, at some point, the music festival was awarded.
Kim Maxwell was last year.
And Kim Maxwell was last year. So I agree, they're all so strong. You could just throw it in the air, and no matter who you picked out of there, would be an incredible candidate. But I would ask you as a committee to look back and see where, because we cover all the arts,
Yeah.
to see if that might play into this in any way. And it's very hard not to lean toward Khaled and toward Linda for the reasons that were given, and toward the other two as well, Ted Gall, you walk in this town and you see all the sculptures that are out and about that were done by Ted Gall and have really put a mark on Ojai. And Karen Lewis, who just is incredible, what she does and her energy and what she's added to the whole art scene working through OSA. So they're all so strong. I would ask you to take a look and see what that progression has been.
Yeah, I'll only say that we indeed have done that. That's been one of our discussion points in the meetings that we've had of the committee, and I'm sure that we will balance that against the various points that people have raised.
Okay. Any other questions for Michael or anything that you want to give him to consider while they meet? Okay. Michael, anything else with that committee?
No, that's all.
Then we're going to move on to the budget request. And in your packet, you were given a draft copy of the budget request. I hope. Is it in here? There it is. It's on the page 6. Okay. I will just give everybody a few minutes to take a look that over. You will notice that this year, when you get to, unfortunately, when it was run off, the first Arts Grants Committee is on the bottom of page 6, and it should be on the top of page 7. So be aware that the very first one is Art Grants Committees, that's on page 7. Did you all follow what I said there? No, sorry.
Oh, the heading.
The heading is
Yes.
missing, so it might be a little confusing. And there should be a line there that says 2014-15 proposed budget. You'll notice there are no figures, because that's what you're going to tell me you want to have there.
Could we have the figures for the
For last year?
2013-14
Let me
filled in?
Let me pull it up for you.
It was 11,000 last year?
No, it was not 11,000 last year. 11,000 was a discrete amount that was given toward grants, but the total budget was, I believe, 20, was it not?
Oh, I thought you were wanting for the grants, okay.
No, I was just pointing out that the heading was run off on the bottom, and it should have been at the top here, so that you could see what that was. You'll also notice, I'm just going to give you a little highlights, that underneath each of the committees, a goal for that committee is stated, which most of you had an opportunity to review, but not everybody did. And those can be changed as well quite easily. If you want to change in any of those goals, just say so. Do we have last year's budget?
It's on page 5.
Page 5 of the agenda
Page
has
5 of the
last year's
packet.
amounts for you to compare. We have been encouraged by City Council to ask for more.
Well, nothing loath, I'd like to start off by suggesting that we move from, in 2014-15, from 3 artist-student mentor recipients to 5. I think we can handle that administratively, and I think there's no question but that we have a body of artists in Ojai that we can draw on and in turn serve the students in Ojai who are stimulated by these master artists. So that would be an increase in that particular budget line.
So you're saying $5,000?
It's $1,000 per,
So
yeah.
it'd be 5,000 instead of
All right.
3,000.
So I have put $5,000 on number 5, the Artist Student Mentor Program Committee. Barbara, do you want to,
Yes.
there's a separate
For the-
line item for arts.
Since we have separated the Arts Ojai Education Committee from the Student Mentor Program, I feel that we need a budget.
Yes, I thought you
And,
might.
We're going to have several new ideas coming up. So I would like to request $3,000.
All right, I will put that in there. Why don't we go up to the top, the Art Grants Committee, and the chair of the Art Grants Committee is Roger. Roger, do you want to talk about what you think your budget needs will be for that?
Yeah, I was trying to be conservative, and I was suggesting 15,000.
Okay,
We had actually requests last year for 27,000, and we had 11,000, and I think it would be too much to ask for 27,000, so I'm going for 15.
okay.
All right.
Public Art Committee,
For the Public Art Committee, I also feel that we need a budget. We just redid our ordinance, which means that we need to change everything around that, which is another major job, and we might need some help with that. So I'd like to request $1,000 for the Public Art Committee.
1,000,
Yes.
Public Arts. Art Awards Committee, so that again is going to come over to you, Michael.
Well, we don't have need for a significant budget, but I think we do need money for plaques and the presentation of awards, so I would think $500 would be sufficient.
Okay. And that will take us to Acquisitions Committee. Mimi?
Yes.
And again, on the handout that went on to, the heading for it, and it goes on to the next page. I apologize for that, that it didn't get printed out a little better than that.
Well, I will be modest and request $4,000.
Could I make an addition to that?
Sure, absolutely.
I don't know whether the satellite committee or satellite, hanging art in satellite places is part of acquisitions, or what is it part of?
It's a great question.
Is it public art?
Welcome, Carol.
Or is it city gallery? Isn't it, it wasn't the concept that it would be an extension of the city
I
gallery?
think it
I
would be.
think so, yeah.
Okay. I don't know where it fits.
Well, because it kind of folds into more than one thing, doesn't it?
Because what we're thinking about with that satellite piece is that there's an educational program that's going to go along with it. And I don't know what that is at this moment, but we have some ideas for it. And I think we're going to need to have some funds for it.
I'm thinking that the satellite program really fits with Art Ojai Education Committee because
Okay.
it's a way to educate. So you had said 3,000?
Yeah.
Do you want to up that?
Yeah, let's raise that to 4,000.
Okay. Okay, can we go back to you, Mimi, then?
Excuse me. This year, we decided that most of the budget would go toward reframing, rematting, bringing current, the pieces that are already existing in our collection. We've discovered that we might be able to buy 2 photographs. We're in the process of discussing that, and we'll address that later in the meeting. But I think we need at least $4,000 because we want to continue to, upgrade's not really the word, but I would like to be able to buy at least one significant piece by an Ojai artist a year, and I don't think we can really expect to get anything of any significance for under $4,000. And I think that's a modest amount. So that's my reason to request that number.
Okay, I'm going to speak for City Gallery, even though I'm stepping down from the chair of that. And Heather, you're going to be assuming that. Surprise. You look a little shell-shocked. But not to worry. You're sitting between 2 incredible co-committee people there that'll help you along the way. Mimi and Roger, City Gallery, we obviously, Roger, need money for the hanging portion, labeling, repairing the wall, lighting fixtures. Do you two see any other needs that we need for that committee besides that?
Yeah, one of the things, like for instance, here we have $1,500, and one of that was going to be for the transition to LED lighting for the galleries, which would have a great advantage. And I think that we'll need kind of a transition period between the 2 budgets, so that probably we would want something about the same that we got last year, next year, to make that total transition. There's interest in changing the lighting here, and initially we were just going to do the gallery areas. And this will have a tremendous savings to the city in electrical costs, because we've got thousands of watts of electricity lighting these galleries, and it will cut down the electrical cost about 1/4 of what we're presently doing. So it's really a major investment. But we'll be doing it slowly because there's a lot of technological changes in the LED lighting. Right now we're doing our first lighting in the museum, and we're getting some really remarkable high-tech bulbs which will last for probably longer than I'll be involved with it. And so we want to do the same thing for the City Hall here too. So I would say probably 1,500 again.
Okay, so 1,500 for that, and thank you for that nice explanation.
I have a question
Yes.
also. We had spoken a number of times about reframing or representing, shall I say, the mayors that have accumulated over the years. They're all different sizes, and it's a bit of a hodgepodge. So Roger had looked into the system that they're using in Ventura and had come up, I think, with good suggestions. And so I guess the question is, would we like to move ahead with that part of it this coming year? And if so, we need to budget for it.
Well, I have a question that I'm going to put to our city council liaison. And Carol, I don't know if you want to come up to a mic because we are telecast tonight so that you'll be heard. But the question is it up to the budget that comes from the Arts Commission to fund a reframing and a rehanging of the mayors that we see here to my left on the wall? I don't know if you can get that on the camera, James, but that would be nice. The public could see what we're talking about. Or is that really an expense that should come from maintenance or from the city budget?
I would say that the suggestion and a drawing or a photo of what it is you have in mind, what the finished product would look like, so that the council is incentivized to do it, which I agree, this is a hodgepodge. The money for it, no, it should not come out of the Arts Commission budget.
Thank you very much. So I would think that our task then, in terms of moving forward, which we all want to move forward with this, it's like, you sit over there and you kind of feel it on your, what is that behind me? Would be for the committee to do exactly what Mayor Pro Tem Smith has suggested and come up with some sort of a plan that can be presented at a city council meeting. Do we have to get that on your agenda when we do that?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we would do that through Steve. So that's the next step. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, there's also another channel that's happening. Rhonda Basor had contacted me and wondered what we had recommended, and she asked for the samples that I presented to the commission here before, and she knows some people down at the county and is supposed to be getting, or hopefully we'll find out what system they used, and maybe we can just buy that system. Otherwise, we need to recreate it in some way.
Sounds like we're moving along. Okay, so maybe there's a way to keep this alive through the agenda process, have a report back on it through City Gallery, when City Gallery reports. Oh, copy lease share, Steve, is that still, what was it, 500?
I'd like to recommend 200.
200?
That should be enough.
200. Okay, who's got a calculator to total this? It is. This is 4,000. I'm going to get you glasses.
Could you review again what monies
I'm
went
going to
where?
go through each committee and say what the amount was, and if someone could correct me if I've got this down wrong. We'll start with Art Grants is asking for 15,000. Public Art is asking for 1,000. Awards Committee, 500. Arts Ojai Education Committee, 4,000. Artist Student Mentor Committee, 5,000. Acquisitions, 4,000. City Gallery, 1,500. And the copier lease share is 200.
31,200.
Yep, that's what I have too.
Well, how do you all feel about that total?
Very positive. And I don't think it's pie in the sky. I think the importance is that the budget requests from all the various committees come out of our experience over the past couple of years when we've been trying to move forward and at the same time recognizing the budgetary stringencies that the city was dealing with. And now that those stringencies seem to be relaxing, it seems appropriate that we should increase our request to this level.
Would anyone else like to make a comment at all on this? What I would ask everyone to do, then I'll comment, is to please take a really close look at what has been written as the goal for that particular committee, and then underneath is what I consider to be, from last year, a plausible explanation for what the monies that you're asking for your committee, what they would be spent on. But that's, you might want to update that. And all you have to do is email me as chair the one section that you're in charge of. Now, in City Gallery, you don't know enough, Heather, so we'll take care of that this time around. But the rest of you, if you would just let me know what it is that you need to have on there.
Question. You mentioned that you thought moving the budget up to, was it 23,000? That was what you thought you could do, or do you think this new total is possible?
Last year, we were granted 20,000, is that correct?
Yeah.
And at that meeting, which I attended as chair and spoke to the budget, a number of city council members said, you need to ask for more. It's okay to ask for more. So the difference between 20 that we asked for last year and 31 this year is $11,200 is the difference. And Carol, our city council member?
I cannot speak for the council or the budget, but if you ask for that amount, you may not get it, but you may get some figure in between 20 and 31,000. So I would say, yeah, you can aim high, but again, we have to look at all our other expenses coming up and whatever.
If we're given a lesser amount, Mayor Pro Tem, are we free to allocate those amounts differently than what we have presented to the?
I think the letter of where the money is going to go, the whole bundle, should be tied to what you're going to do with it. If, in fact, well, it won't come up for many months. You could always add an addendum if it changed, but I would think in terms of the city council feeling that you went ahead and implemented and did what you said you would do is a very good track record.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Does that answer your question, Heather? Okay. Anyone else have a question about any part of this, the total amount or the process, or Linda?
The only thing I'd like to see is I really wish the grants could bump up a little bit. I really feel like we got some excellent grants last year, and I felt badly that we couldn't offer more than we did. I was proud of what we did do, but I guess that's my only thing. I would like it higher.
So people who are on that committee want to comment?
Yeah, what would you suggest?
Well, let's see, last year was 11. I know you're trying to be conservative. I guess that's a $4,000 increase. I would like to see it up to 18.
18?
So it'd be a $7,000.
Anyone else? Roger, how do you feel about that? Want to try for 17, or do you think that we're...
I would be all right with that. I was trying to be conservative on that and not sure how much we could reach for with that. But they can always reduce this too, so.
Sorry.
I was only going to say that if the total that we've requested is essentially a 50% increase over the previous year, to go from 11 to
33 it would be now.
from 11,000 for the grants committee to go from there to
16.5.
16 would be about a 50% increase. So that'd be $5,000 above what was available last year.
Well, I think that'd be better than 15. The reason I think it's so important is not only that it's such seed money. I know everything we do is seed money, but this especially, I guess that's why if you think 16.5 would be more responsible, then let's go with 16.5.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we go to 16.5.
No, I don't think we're motioning this
Okay.
at this point. We're just doing a,
Okay,
at
so
the
it's
end, we're
for
going to,
discussion.
we'll have a motion for the whole thing. So 16.5, make the math hard, right? What's our total?
If I could ask, I'm still not entirely clear, Mayor Pro Tem, once we are granted an amount of money, admittedly, when we put in a budget request, we'll break down, but we're requesting over 30,000, let's say we're granted 28 for the sake of discussion. Is that sum fungible? Can we then reallocate within that sum, or do we have to stick to the proportionate amounts that we requested?
Well, I think certainly pulling something out of the blue and spending money on that was not mentioned in the request.
No, I'm not suggesting
But
that.
then reallocating it, I would think that's reasonable there is some laxity in that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Does someone have a new total? We have 16.5 for art grants, 1,000.
32.7.
32,700. Okay, so we now have a request for 2014-15 of $32,700. This will go to city council what month?
The city manager's budget will be out in early May. And at that point, there'll be a lot more context in terms of a better picture in terms of where the city is in its budget. It's too early, we're currently trying to crunch all those numbers in terms of how this year is shaping up and what next fiscal year is looking at. And then, of course, the council and staff is taking all these various different requests and then, try to find a way to prioritize and address all those. So early May, we will see the city manager's budget recommendation, and that will be issued to council. And then the council will start having discussions in June or perhaps late May on the budget requests.
So this document, this budget request, goes to
It would
Rob
be
Clark, the city manager, when?
well, it would be. I think there's a little bit of flexibility there. If I would put it this way, if the commission is not ready to make to settle on a request or a number tonight, I would think if you were definitely ready by your May meeting, we're talking about fairly relatively small numbers. That's not too hard to plug into the city manager's overall projection. So
Okay.
I would say even if the commission takes action by their regular May meeting, that'll still give staff enough time to analyze that, add that in, and get that to the council for their consideration when they have their budget deliberations.
It would be very good to see in the letter what the Arts Commission has done and what exhibits and what presentations have actually brought people to Ojai for that. Because if the city council feels that your work is contributing to the tourist dollars that we live on, that would be an excellent way to say this is how the city reaped the benefits of the money that was acquisitioned to us.
Thank you for that suggestion. So what I'm going to ask you to consider then tonight is that we don't take a vote on this, but let me communicate with each of you as chairs of the committee, and let's really pinpoint what your accomplishments have been last year. and what your goals will be for next year. We can do that one-on-one, and we won't have any Brown Act problem. We'll bring it back in April, and you'll have new sheets with new language and with the amounts written in here, and then at that time, we can adjust if we need, we can vote on it, and then it'll be ready to go. How does that sound? Does that sound like a plan?
Great.
Okay,
Quick question.
sure.
We had talked about this before, and it's kind of,
Microphone.
oh, sorry.
No, it's hard to remember.
Sorry. We had talked before about sort of thinking along the lines of what we wanted to see and widen our scope in the future. And one of the things I had brought up when we talked about communications was that I had mentioned the app, the walking app. We have the map and the slideshow on the website, but I would like to see that happen. And I don't know, do we ask for the money before I mean, it's like, I want to start working on it this year, I'm hoping to. So in that case, would that be something that we would ask for in our art budget? Or would that be something the city would fund, or how would that work? I know this is kind of
Does anyone have any feelings on that?
Well, I do. I always try to encourage commissions. I mean, if you want to have control over how that is done and ensure that it is done, I would think that you would want to have it in your budget. However, if it becomes a choice of if you could put it somewhere else and get funded, then I could certainly see the commission going down that road. It seems like it falls pretty squarely in the works and the duties that the commission is doing. So if there's a strong case to be made for it, then I would say make the case much like you do for the increase on the arts grants or any of these other items.
yeah.
Barbara?
I think it would fit very well into the public art program, because we were thinking of, I mean, in the past, we were thinking of making a brochure, but I think that society has really moved to the app, and this would really be a much better use.
Maybe we should talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Barbara, could I just suggest that you might also want to think about whether or not it wouldn't fit under Arts Ojai Education, because this, again, is a vehicle for educating the public as to what we have. So
Well, it's
it
both.
might be cleaner to put it with the Arts Ojai Education Committee and not confuse it with art ordinances and that kind of thing. And it might be a nice place to have it, would be there, and we can tap into Linda on that.
Is this something that could be coordinated?
Linda, would you like to join that committee?
Uh,
Arts Ojai Education Committee?
Well, I just want to make it work out, however that will happen. So now I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess. I will talk about it in the
We'll
next.
talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to ask about it in budget because I wasn't
Great
sure.
question.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for remembering that. Anything else from anybody?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may.
On my left.
I didn't want to forget, and I know it had been brought up at least by Councilmember Blatz, and I'm sorry if it seems to me it may have been addressed by a couple other council members as well, and I'm sorry, but I know that there was this notion that had been expressed a couple of times by the Public Arts Committee about where should the public art maintenance money, where should that fall? Should that be something that gets carved out of the Arts Commission budget, or should that be somewhere else in the city budget? So I know that I believe that was something that the Arts Commission wanted to talk about.
Yes.
And perhaps put that forward as part of your request to the city council, that there still be money in the city budget to maintain public art, but that it not come out of the allocation to the Arts Commission.
Can I ask a question about that? Now, you're talking about the public art that's on public property, not
That's
the public
correct.
art on,
The public art on private property is the responsibility
Responsibility
of
of
the
the
property owner to maintain for the
so an
life of that
example of
project.
something on city property would be
The,
arch.
when we redid the Hino, when we reframed the Hino tile at the entrance to City Hall.
And Trimpin's Arch too would be?
If we needed to do maintenance to Trimpin's Arch,
Thought, but I wasn't
the,
sure.
Mr. Gall's horse, Mr. Gall's wheel, yeah, any of the city-owned public art.
the city collection is part of the public art owned by the city. Do you mean that or are you saying that the acquisitions committee should recommend and not use their budget for any kind of framing or conservation?
No, I'm not suggesting that. I think the issue really came about when the budgets were under much more constraint. And the Arts Commission was trying to fund arts grants and all these other number of things with a rather limited amount of funds. And of course, what the commission would find from time to time was having to dip into their money, quote unquote, to maintain public art, which I know from the commission standpoint, I'm not trying to speak for the commission, but felt that was not unfair, but almost it was a disadvantage to the commission because you had all these other programs that you were trying to advance. And then out of that allocation, you were having to take care of maintaining public art. And I think the notion was, gee, shouldn't make more sense if that actually, is something that falls, say, under the public works budget, and then it's a responsibility for the public works. Now, having said all that, I also think that maybe the context has changed now. And as I said earlier, there's certainly advantages to that being under your control and under your budget, because you can, you have a little bit more influence over how it gets spent, that it gets spent. So I would say if the question is, gee, if we're only going to get this limited amount and we really need every penny that we can out of that to make these programs go, then if in order to keep that as whole as possible yet, but make sure that we're maintaining our public art, then I think the notion was, move it out of the Arts Commission budget. However, if there's support from the City Council to increase the Arts Commission budget to the level that gives you what you need to do the programs, and you still have some money in there to take care of public art maintenance, that might be something. I mean, I think you've got the best of both worlds there, in my opinion.
I have a question, Steve. And it probably goes to the city council too. But I have it on. In the best world, or in the best situation, I wonder if the council would rather have, since an art piece needs a special amount of conservatory attention, would it be better for us to take on the role of conservation on those works, or is it better?
Well, in a perfect world, that would all be taken care of. But I don't think anybody here is a better advocate for the arts than the arts commissioners. So,
is that something we should be thinking about taking on then?
Can I jump in here? Okay. Because I'm going to make a recommendation as a way to look at this. The city council meeting, at the time, Mayor Blatz was very adamant that the money to maintain public art should not come from the Arts Commission budget.
Right. That
should come from the city. He was quite adamant, and there were other members of the council at the time who agreed with him wholeheartedly. I don't recall that anyone said, no, it should be Arts Commission money. But I think what you're bringing up is so important, because it's separate from who is it that's watching over and saying,
that's what I'm saying.
This,
Yeah.
like, for example, the hanging over in Bryan Street Park, which is on private property, like, who is the one that's, in charge of, and in that case, that's more complicated because it's public art on private property.
Becomes a code
That, I
enforcement.
think, is our task, and I think it's a task of the Public Arts Committee. The Public Arts Committee has to come up with a way to monitor public art and whether or not it needs maintenance, and then write a recommendation or a report or request to what department? Through Steve. Is that making sense?
Well, that's what I was trying to get at.
If the public, let's say you went through the inventory of public art that's on public property, and you said that there is rust on such and such piece, this is, obviously the outdoor pieces are much more subjected to change. I think as you said, curatorial, what needs to be done, perhaps some of your expertise on who to contact to do it, or if our Public Works Department could handle it, if it's just a scrubbing or whatever it is. But that should not come out of your budget. What can the Public Arts Subcommittee, I think, are the perfect people to do an inventory of what's out there and what they see as maintenance that is needed to be done as soon as possible. Maintenance may be required if in 2-3 years, if it ever rains or whatever. So I think that coming from that list, then it could be assigned to Public Works if they're able to handle it, or if we have to hire a specialty person. But that specialty person, again, would come out of the Public Works budget,
Right.
not your
Okay,
budget.
thank you.
What about public art on private property?
I think the best you can do is in your inventory, take a look. If you notice degradation or deferred maintenance, the best thing to do is to write to the property owner and say it's been noticed that there is some deterioration on this beautiful piece. This is what we think it would need. Please call, we can discuss about it. But no, that would be the private property owner's maintenance of his property, just as he would maintain his landscaping and his building.
And you see that communication coming from the Arts Commission?
I think the first citing of the fact that the piece is deteriorating, because we may have an out-of-town owner, we may have someone whose sensibility doesn't even take in that something has happened to the private art on their property, so they may have to be woken up to the fact that, oh, I have to maintain this just as I maintain my property in general, that's all. So a friendly note that from you folks would be probably, if I was the owner, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Now, are these pieces registered?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
you're on the website.
No, the public pieces on private property.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they are, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, just.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment about any of this?
Well,
Does this-
I would just like to reinforce that, and I think the Public Art Committee reviewed the collection when we were talking about standardizing the signage, when we were talking about the design of the plaques. And I think it should be at least every other year, maybe every year. That the committee sweeps through, has a checklist, and reports back, makes notes. And then I think it's a partnership with the city in terms of what can be handled in-house as far as the maintenance is concerned and when we have to call in a special conservator. I think that's the way to do it.
But the, sort of the consensus is we don't have to build that into our budget at this point, so that's what I was getting at.
So it becomes a task for the Public Arts not subcommittee, but committee, but not a budget concern.
Okay.
So I would recommend that the commission come up with a recommendation that specifically states that, and probably a dollar amount too, for public art maintenance.
Well, I think we just decided that it will not come out of the Arts Commission budget.
Right, but I think you should make a recommendation on what that amount should be, even if
Oh,
it's
for the
not.
city budget?
Right.
Oh, we can do that? Oh, what do you know?
Right.
Oh,
Any information that we can get that is more
Gotcha.
specific.
gotcha. It just kind of sunk in.
Right.
Terrible on this piece.
Got it.
You know, That's going to require, the more specific you are, the more likely.
So the Public Arts Committee, Barbara had mentioned earlier, it has a lot of work to do, and now we have a little bit more.
And I think Commissioner Moore hit it on the head, because as much as we have wonderful public art staff here, they do not have the expertise or the eye, and they're not going to see things that the Public Art Committee is going to see.
This is good.
So,
This is very good.
There's a lot out there to do.
the other thing that I just might want to pass on to the commission would be, if you're asking for an increase in money, just explain what it is for, or why you're asking for the increase,
So there should be some detail in that
justification.
communication about what the piece is, what the anticipated cost would be, and then recommended that this amount is,
No, not in the letter for your budget.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was speaking more generally.
not the cost of the maintenance of public art on public property should not be included in your budget.
Yeah, right, I know, I'm saying, and then that recommendation would go to the city council. Would
Right.
Go to Rob.
But that
to
would
put
come
in
out of public
your
works
budget,
budget,
To
right.
put in the city
Council to
council budget.
consider,
Yeah, I got
right.
it. Yeah, took me that, but thank you. I'm glad you all paying it, watch me close. I'm easily confused. On the Chinese calendar, I'm a monkey, and I'm easily confused. That's what it says. So Michael's not surprised.
It's the equinox to boot.
All right, so I'm just going to summarize what I think I understand about this particular draft budget proposal. That's going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to be emailing each of you one-on-one to get some more fodder for what to put there, to make a really strong case. Then it will go to the city manager after it's approved, hopefully, at our next meeting. And then I'll be attending that budget meeting, and hopefully, you're all invited to come along and support me in the background or in front of the mic, and hopefully we can really, just think of the things we could do if we could get that budget. It would be so fantastic, because we're on a roll, aren't we? Feels like it. Okay. Anything else before we move on?
So we'll bring that back
We're going to bring that back.
for April's meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll move on to Arts Ojai, and that's Barbara.
Well, the Arts Ojai Committee had a meeting. We have scheduled meetings the second and fourth Tuesday at 4 o'clock here at City Hall. And we met and decided to divide our committee into the Artist Mentor Program Committee and the Arts Ojai Committee. And we'll be working together, but they're separate, very separate functions now. We also decided that we would start the second Saturday series in the fall, because looking at the calendar, we felt that summer was not a good time to have this. And so we thought we would begin on October 11th, the second Saturday. We want to brand this, so we're working on a logo. We're looking into a banner of some kind, and I think it'll be a good thing for the city to have a regular program that people can attend free of charge. So that's what we're working on. And we're having our next meeting on the 25th, but I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk about the Artist Mentor Program.
And before Michael starts, I want to make sure that Steve has this in the minutes. Our October 11th is going to be the second Saturday showing of the Arts 21. And also to note in the minutes that we have created two committees out of Arts Ojai Education Committee is one committee. And the focus of that is education, Arts Ojai Education. And now we have a separate committee, so it'll be a separate item on the agendas, and that is the Artist Student Mentor Program, which Michael is chair of, and he's going to report on that now. So we want that in the minutes. Thank you, Michael.
The report is that we're going to go forward, and we've set up a calendar for the series of meetings that are necessary and the advertisement of the program to artists in Ojai. And we'll follow the same procedure we did last year, which is to say that we will seek applications from artists for the program. We'll meet with them, explain the program to them, and then having chosen the three artists, we will then similarly announce to students at the schools in the Ojai Valley that the program is available. And as we did last year, my hope is that we will have a diverse range of artists participating in this program so that there is a wide range of possibilities for students, which in turn will draw more student interest. And I'm very hopeful that the Ojai Education Foundation will again contribute $750 to the program this year to supplement our funds, and perhaps twice that amount. I've tried to prime the pump with them, and I didn't get any massively negative feedback to the idea that they will double the amount of money they're contributing. I think it was very valuable to us in the first go-round to have their participation. It's valuable to them because it enlarges what they're doing, but it also, I think, makes our program more substantive in the public's eye if it's linked with the Education Foundation. Similarly, I'm hoping that if our budget is approved, we can then bump it up to 5 participants in the following summer as opposed to 3 this summer. So that's the plan.
4 this year.
Yeah, that's right. We have a budget for 4 this year, so it'll be 5 the following year.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure I have that right.
And that's what you want to press.
So you asked.
Yes.
You asked for 5,000
For next year.
for,
Yeah.
for next year, but for that's 5, not 4.
We have 4 this year.
This fiscal year.
Yeah,
For this coming,
this summer.
Next
in our
budget.
in the budget that we have now, we have $4,000 for the mentor program.
Through the end of June.
Always comes
Okay.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Your fiscal years make me nuts.
I know.
As you all know, I am
know.
challenged with dates and calendars, and that's not my strong point.
Calendars.
Yeah.
So different.
Being on
Yeah.
time, those kind of stuff. Other stuff I can do, but it makes me nuts. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think I got it. So we're adding 1 more for the following.
Adding 1 this year, and then we're
So just
hoping to add
increasing 1
1
per
the
year.
following year, yes.
Makes sense. Okay, good.
And I've already spoken to several artists, and I think I've piqued their interest, so I think, again, we'll have some fascinatingly different artists participating.
I hope so. It'd be really nice. Any other comments or questions for Michael on the program? And I would just add that for all of you to encourage the artists that you know to apply for the program, to at least
Yes.
come to the meeting and learn and hear about it. I know the 3 artists that participated in it last year were just thrilled to death with the student that they worked with the product that came out of that, with the quality of the experience was so high for everybody. You know. Oh, and I did have a chance to see one of our mentors, one of our students in West Side Story at Matilaha.
That's right.
Playing the role of Bernardo was Chance Lang, and he just did a wonderful job. Did I have that off? Okay, moving right along, City.
I'd also like to add that we're hoping that many of the artists who applied last year and did not get an award will come back this year because all of them were terrific.
Yep. Okay. City Gallery, that would be me. We, of course, had a wonderful reception here tonight for Carlos Grasso, and if the camera wants to hone in on any one of the paintings over here or above the bookcases, so that the public can see that if you are used to thinking of Carlos as this fine classical painter in the style of chiaroscuro, he worked with David Leffel for many years, that the work that he's doing now is definitely not even closely related to that, other than perhaps that you see his ability and his skill at representational art in these paintings as well. I mean, you can see there the shoes and the plate and the teacup, and I do notice that there is a little bit of a theme with cell phones going on. We'll have to ask Carlos what that is about. So there was a wonderful article from 3 Colors, The Oneness of All Being. Carlos, there's a lot of depth of thinking that goes into Carlos's work that has to do with his own strong feelings about being, the meaning of being alive. So if you haven't seen the exhibit, we encourage the public to come and see the exhibit anytime that City Hall is open during City Hall business hours.
And it's on the website.
Yes. Anybody else want to make a comment on the Grasso exhibit?
Christine, you could reference the website too.
Oh, yes, and all of this is on the website. Thank you. And I sent that to you, right, Linda?
Right.
Yeah.
And if you forget the dates, it's available you could check it on the website. The dates are on that.
It's running until March 14th. So we have confirmed, Mimi, a couple more of the artists who are going to be coming into City Gallery this year. You want to talk about that? No. No?
But turn on your microphone to say no.
Pam and Jeff?
They were thrilled to be invited, and
Do you want to say who they were?
I can't remember
Pam
their
and Jeff?
names. That's why I
Okay.
didn't want to comment.
I'm sorry, putting you on the
Tell me
spot.
their names again,
Pam and
please.
Jeff, but I don't have last names written down because those are
Okay.
folks you know.
Anyway,
It's Pamela Grau.
Pamela Grau
That's right.
and Jeff
Jeff Crussell.
Crussell.
Right.
Yes.
Two
And the other is Doug
outstanding
Lochner.
artists.
Excuse me?
Doug Lochner.
Yes, and Doug Lochner later in the calendar. But the next ones are Pam and Jeff, and they were thrilled to be invited. And I will be calling them shortly to set up the studio visit, and we'll just move forward with the plan.
Terrific. And as I mentioned earlier, have asked Susan if she would take a look and see if she would be available, because we do have a couple of dates that are not firmed up. And I think it would be wonderful if she is able to do this, that we can plan a really nice honor her and the work that she did here on the commission in this way, by having a nice, a fete for Susan and having her art show. So I'm hoping we can do that. And I'm going to turn to the left here and ask Steve if he can give us any information on the plaque that is being made for Susan that will go over here on the Ojai Commissioners, because you get a plaque if you've been here 10 or more years.
I know the city clerk has ordered that, and it will be presented to former Commissioner Stinsmuhl and Amond when she appears for that honor. And I don't have the date in front of me. I want to say it was the first meeting in April, but I would need to double check that.
Would that be emailed out to all of us?
So we can come?
Yes.
I would like that.
Can we do that?
Sure. In fact, I will check here before the meeting is over. I'm pretty sure that date is April 10th, but I will confirm that before the meeting.
It would be nice if we could,
we could get
many
an
of us that
email,
can be
that'd
there
be
can be there for that,
Fine.
for Susan.
Good suggestion from
So thank you.
Vice Chair Addison. I'll send an email. That way you've got reference. So good suggestion. If that's okay with everybody, I'll just send out an email.
Okay. Anything else from City Gallery, anybody? Public Art, Barbara.
Well, the Public Art Committee has not met lately, but I reviewed most of our materials today. And now that the ordinance, the new ordinance is in effect, we in effect need to revise everything around that, which involves redoing the guidelines, redoing the art consultant list, and redoing some policies, that we've been thinking about. Every person who comes to the Planning Commission gets a packet. Each developer gets a packet, and that includes some kind of a brochure, which we're now thinking maybe should be an app. They get all the other materials which I said that we would work on. In 2009, we revised the guidelines. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to use those and work in the new language, and it won't be as difficult as a task as it has been in the past. We're also, we want to discuss murals, which we haven't ever discussed before, and not a mural ordinance perhaps, but criteria possibly, and see if that can work into our existing ordinance. I also was looking through our papers over a long period of time and realized that in 2008 or 9, I had suggested developing a list of high-visibility sites for public art, And that could be more of a master plan that we could develop. And we might have suggestions for those sites and be able to interest developers in contributing to something like that when there's not a tremendous amount of money for a piece of art on location. So there's lots to do, and now we're going to be inventorying the pieces, checking all of the labels. And we do have the right person. If we need to call someone in, we would call in, I have the person to call. And we're going to get to work again.
I don't think it's as daunting a task to now get all the documents in sync, because we've been gradually chipping away at that from, the time of the revision of the guidelines. When we were doing the ordinance, when we were revising the ordinance, we had a lot of those points in the backs of our minds. So I don't think that part will be so difficult. And we have the acquisitions document now, and the deaccession, and the loan form, and all of those things. So we've been gradually working. We just need to get out in the field and look around and pick some sites and make sure that everything's in the condition that it needs to be in.
We'll start on the east end this time. We started on the west the last time.
All right, terrific. That sounds terrific. Sounds very exciting. Any questions for Barbara or Mimi? Then we're going to move on to art grants, and I think we are going to be talking about the Duckler Dance revision to the scope of work for their grant. Roger.
I have something to raise as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that Mimi was contacting the Duckler Dance, and
I was initially. I have not been in touch with them since they. Do you remember at our last meeting, we didn't have the revised scope at the
right,
meeting?
yeah, and I still haven't received it either, so I
Well,
didn't-
isn't this what you've given us?
No, I haven't seen that, so.
How did I get this?
Well,
I think I printed it. I must have printed it from an email.
Yeah, that was originally sent as an email. I believe I sent it to one or multiple members of the Arts Grant Committee.
right, probably.
So you haven't seen it, Roger?
No, I haven't seen it, but I've been having trouble with my email, so it could have gotten
Oh, okay. Is anyone aware of the new request and what's involved?
No, we're waiting to hear from you.
Oh,
too.
from me?
And Roger.
Okay.
And Roger. And
Fine.
who else is on that committee?
Well,
But
you had
if you're
asked
not
me
ready,
for
we can go next to
the
next- we go
previous
next
one,
I
which I got
did.
to, so I assumed that, but maybe I assumed wrong on that.
Would
Okay,
you
well-
like to put this on next month so you'll have a chance to talk about it and come
Yeah,
back to
I
us
think
with
so.
a
I mean,
recommendation?
I've reviewed it and I have my opinions, but I think everybody else should see it first.
Okay, well then we'll, what do you call tabling? Table that?
So Steve, then can you email everybody the document that I received?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay,
And
It might be helpful to have their original request too.
right, now,
Scope of what else they're asking.
did everyone keep that from, okay, the original grant request from,
I can find it.
okay. Yeah, it's a big one, it's a thick one. And I did communicate with them initially, but since the revision has occurred, I have not been talking to them. Have you, Roger?
No, I haven't. so-
Okay, well, obviously, we need to do a little regrouping on
we'll
this.
bring that back.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Anything else? Michael wanted to say
Yeah,
something?
I was contacted by Francesca Beach. As you may recall, we had given her a grant the previous year for costumes for the importance of being earnest, and she requested a second grant in this last go-round for the costumes for production that she was doing. She unfortunately has been extremely ill. She was afflicted with a blood clot on the lung and has had really severe consequences to that. She is recovering, but she is not able at this time to do the production. So her question is, how long does she have I mean, she's obviously would like to reschedule if her health continues to improve, but the basic question is, how long does she have to make use of the grant that was awarded her?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Conrad, I believe they have through the end of the calendar year.
That's correct.
Okay, well then I will,
However, we have in the past, like with the Duckler people, we did reevaluate and allow them to go into the next year.
okay.
So we could do that.
Well,
but-
I will communicate that to her. I think this is entirely an issue of her intent to do it. It isn't sloth, it's just that she was.
Yeah, she's
very,
very
very ill.
energetic and
Yeah.
She's
and really
wonderful.
a good worker. I think we do have to get permission from the city council to do that because,
Carry it forward.
yeah, otherwise the money would go back into the general fund.
Right. Okay, well, I will talk with her and then report back to the commission.
Well,
She already has the money, doesn't she?
Yeah, the checks were issued. And actually, this is one of the things, Chair Golden, where the fiscal year works to our advantage. Because obviously the calendar year ends halfway through the fiscal year, but our budget continues through the end of June. So there's not an issue, doesn't appear to be an issue of needing to go back to council
Okay.
or extend or reallocate or anything like that. It's within the approved budget
Hallelujah.
amount.
Good.
And so if the commission wanted to consider extending something through, March of 2015, it's still in your budget.
Okay.
Should we go ahead and make a motion?
I don't know that that's necessary. Let me just communicate with her and get further information from
Yeah,
her
let's
about
see.
what her prospects are, and then we'll go forward from there.
So you'll come back with a report on
Yep,
that
I will.
next month. So that'll come back a report on Francesca Beach grant. Okay. Anything else under arts grants from anybody? Okay, wonderful. Public relations, Linda, we're so happy to see you sitting here and to have you back, and we all extend condolences to Lenny and you
Thank you.
and your family. I know all of our thoughts were really with you, and it's been a difficult time. And we're just thrilled to death, though, that you're sitting here tonight.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
was.
Yeah, that was a hard one for him to write. It said it was the hardest thing he's ever written, I believe it. But I apologize for missing. I don't like to fall down on my jobs, so trying to get back in the saddle again. I did manage to get the updates done to the website for Carlos's reception. And basically, I really don't have anything new to report because like I said, I've been a little beside myself, but I'm hoping to get back in and on things.
I don't think we're going to have any problem loading you down with some work with you. However, I went and talked to Heather at Porch Gallery and brought her a little packet of materials and some cards. We need to give her some more cards. I just had a few I gave her, you know what I'm talking about? And asked her if she would like to work with you on public relations to help. You've held that by yourself all these years. I mean, I know we do
Well, it wasn't by
the
myself.
press releases for City Gallery, but everything else has fallen on you, and everything else is a whole lot. And there'll be more, because we keep doing more. And Heather said, absolutely. And one of her strengths is website design. So, you two can get together and decide how you want to split that up. We'll leave it totally, we're all comfortable leaving that up to the two of you.
Okay.
So, yay.
One more thing. We do have, and Linda and I worked on this for several years, we do have an artist list that we maintain, and we also have an arts organization list. I think that everybody on the commission should have a copy of that list. Now, I called Shari today to ask her for copies of all the materials that I need, but I think, and she's away till next week. But I think it would be a good idea for everyone to have that in their basic notebook. And, that way we can add things and subtract things that we see, because things change. And, we can be monitors of that list as well.
I agree.
Great suggestion. Anyone else on public relations, comments, or?
One thought occurs to me. There was talk earlier of an Ojai Arts app. And if that falls within public relations, which I would imagine it would it be possible to coordinate with the museum and the Convention and Visitors Bureau on
I
that?
think it would be a valuable tool for anyone,
Yeah.
anyone in Ojai, any of the businesses. I just think
Right.
it'd be a really positive thing for Ojai.
But you might get financial support from those
Right.
other organizations as
It's-
well to develop it.
Right, yeah, I agree.
I just want to mention that that was one of the things that City Council wanted us to do.
Oh, really?
They wanted us to interact with the, what did you call it? The
Convention and Visitors Bureau?
The Visitors
Yeah.
Bureau. So that would be an excellent use, and then we can move the app into,
I'd love to see
The
a kiosk.
PR.
I'd like to see a kiosk downtown, actually. I think it'd be awesome if we,
Oh.
at one point, could do that, and I know that's a big money number. So that's why the app's so great, because you don't need a kiosk. You can walk around with it, and that's, I mean, it's not cheap, but I wanted to bring it up now, because I think it's something we could work towards, so,
Absolutely. It's
I'll
the
have to do
world
some-
we're in.
yeah.
Well, it's just exciting. I'm hearing all these ideas here tonight, and it's like really exciting. I feel like, let's all get on our ponies and ride. We're ready to go.
Well, and that's one of the things when people come to Ojai, I think we do a really good job as individuals and as a community, kind of, when people come, making them feel welcome and say, oh, did you see such and such? Oh, you don't want to miss this, or you don't want to miss that. But some people come into town and, they're not maybe as gregarious and hunting those things out. And this would be, I'd rather have a person do it, but if you don't have a person, you have the app and you
Yep.
can go right to it. So just an added thing.
I have a question about the app. So would this be something that businesses would also advertise it or promote their shows? Like, for example, galleries, but
Well-
also individuals who have open studios?
Well, the website now has the capability for all the artists. We have a list. We'll have to go over it with you. There's a list on there of all the artists in Ojai that wanted to be listed. There's a listing for all the arts organizations. There's also a calendar that anybody can be a part of that's having a production. So we upload those events, and that's downloadable and it's a Google app. James back there is one of the ones that does the uploads for it. And so I'm not seeing it as a revenue generator in terms of buying ads. I prefer to think of it more as a service.
Yes.
So we wouldn't be selling ads or anything like that. But
No, but not ads, but would would it be a fee to list or just be a free thing? Like, for example.
well, what we have now is free.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought of it any other way, because I feel like it's part of it as our mission as a commission to forward the aims of the artistic community and Ojai in general. So I guess I wasn't figuring we would charge for it. My idea, I don't know what everybody else is, and that's something we'll have to talk about, but my idea would be just the app to extend the use of what we've already built, because we already have this wonderful collection nobody knows anything about. When you walk around Ojai, unless you have somebody that lives here and are really wandering around and poking around, you're liable to miss quite a few of the pieces. And I don't know how many people that come to Ojai actually wander around the city hall looking for a gallery either. It's just so many things we have that we already have that we don't have the app for. So
No, I think
that's-
it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea and we already do list the museum events, but it's another way that we could kind of work together, so.
So there's an app for that.
Yeah, I like it.
Exciting. Anyone else? Okay.
Just a quick point. We have to be very careful about not using city resources to promote private businesses.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, I think our site is a .org, so we have to work within the confines of
Right.
that too.
Good to keep in mind when they're working on it.
I was just trying to gauge how the people who could submit, whether it was just
Sure.
individual artists or businesses or down to.
Understood.
Mimi, you're up next with art acquisitions.
Okay, Steve, has the question on the invoice for the last round of framing been resolved?
No.
Okay, what do I need to do something? I submitted the invoice the day I brought the reframe pieces over, gave it to Amber, and I thought it was good to go. So what needs to be done?
Well, we need to talk afterwards because that paper, it's not clear. It doesn't conform to a typical invoice.
It doesn't.
It's
Okay.
a work order, and so it doesn't show,
Okay, well,
it's-
all right,
yeah.
okay, we'll do that. It's the way they invoice, it's their system.
Okay.
And we've paid them before for other services, so I guess I really don't know what the problem is, but we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We are doing well with our reframing and spiffing up the collection. And with that in mind, we came up with the idea of buying some photographs for our collection from Phil Harvey. And we have hit a little bump in the road with the process. Just to recap, Barbara and I Linda, you weren't available. We went to the studio and sort of pre-selected some images that we thought would be a nice addition to our collection. And we had requested that they be printed in a larger format. And the question was whether or not the original slides would produce a high enough resolution print in the size that we wanted, if that was possible. And it might not be, it may not be. Phil has some proofs for us to see. And the other problem is he is not able to find the original slide of one of the images that we had pre-selected. So that's a problem because his archive is huge and his eyesight is no longer very good. He does have some help, but anyway, so these are things that we can resolve, and when I spoke to him, we both agreed that we need to bring the committee back over to the studio and review what we've looked at, and then see where we need to make any changes, and request proofs, and then we'll present them to the commission for approval. So that's where we are on the acquisitions.
Carolyn wants to speak.
Sure.
I'm looking at these ugly TV monitors, and we used to have art over here. What if you think in terms of new acquisitions of some kind of textile piece, or is a weaving considered a textile?
Yes.
But suppose you had some beautiful weaving, and you had, mounted on poles on the top and the bottom. The poles had hinges, and so when we needed the TV screen, it just hinge out of the way.
Unfold
Because
bifold.
these are hideous. What can I say? I mean, I was just looking
Yes.
at them, and I was trying to picture what type of artwork
That's a good
we
idea.
could easily move but be part of our collection.
In the meantime, what I do at my house, because I'm not a lover of any of this stuff either, but I do have one of those things, not quite that large, is I just purchased a beautiful fabric that I've draped over it, and you could do that as an interim.
You could
kind of thing.
actually,
I just put a beautiful fabric over it.
I don't know how they'd feel about it, but you could actually have a photo that would go over it also, hinge over it.
Yeah, I think there.
One of Phil's Ojai, he has so many beautiful. But I mean, this is really.
So shall we put this on a committee to take a look at what we might do to help the nasty EMF energy in this room that's coming from these TV receivers? What committee would that be?
City gallery.
Do we have a decorations committee? Home
There-
improvement?
There is another idea,
Oh, Barbara?
something that we don't have in City Hall, and that is video art.
Oh,
And
that idea.
I think that we should investigate that.
I do too.
It would be a loop. It would be a loop.
That would be
A
awesome.
loop on the
What
screen.
if it was a loop of the collection?
What if it was a loop of the collection? I love it.
It might,
Oh, no, you wouldn't have
Might be a
it.
valuable distraction in some cases.
And it depends really on how loopy the loop is. I mean, it can go very slow.
Well, as I said, it's up to you guys, but I mean, this.
All right, is this City Gallery?
Used to have that space for art, so
Right.
now we don't.
Is this a City Gallery discussion, you think?
If it doesn't involve a purchase of any kind, then it was the acquisitions. But let's start with City Gallery.
Okay, so
Barbara,
I'm
were
going to
you
put this
thinking
on
of a
City
loop?
Gallery.
I was thinking of
Performance
video
Or something.
art, yeah.
Yeah, video art.
I think we ought to just investigate it.
I think so, too.
Come up with some
And
possibilities.
it wouldn't have to be on when you had city council meetings or a commission meeting, you just turn it off.
Yeah.
When you don't want it to be distracting.
Yeah, now because you have the screens, that might be a very natural step rather than put a beautiful reading or a textile, but to think about.
Or one textile and one video loop.
So I'm going to put down a task for City Gallery is to investigate digital art for the chamber.
Not digital art.
Not digital
Video
art.
art.
Video art, excuse me, video art. Video art, oh, that's so exciting.
That's a whole field.
Don't we have a grant recipient who is doing an entire video on the history of Ojai with music? Of course, you can't have music playing during a council meeting.
No, you see, the people who are in here the most, of course, they come to City Gallery, but people are here, we get a crowd at City Council.
Oh, yes.
We have to get a crowd at planning.
Oh, and you will.
But I mean, if the video art is looping and it wouldn't be on, then that big crowd won't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why my hesitation on that type of art would be that it wouldn't be appropriate for during a council meeting because it would be distracting, or a planning mission, so.
Well, we could also look to see whether or not there's a way to use a pause and just have one image during a meeting.
But
Yeah.
or whatever you guys come up with. But
Okay.
I think
It's a good idea to
this
address
is
it.
just, a monitoring.
Fun.
And they're ugly.
Have you seen Jennifer Steinkamp's art? It's absolutely fabulous, and things change, but they change very gradually. It's not as though you're looking at something happening.
Yeah, which I think
Quickly.
you'd have to have it changing so you don't burn out the screen. I know.
Yeah, no kidding.
How do you spell the last name, Barbara? Jennifer?
Steinkamp, Steinkamp.
Okay.
I don't think that we could get her work.
Well, but I do want to look and see what you're talking about.
It's, you can see it at UCLA in the Ronald Reagan Medical, the
I'll
new
Google her,
medical
though.
building.
But I think in the meantime, if you did some beautiful fabric like you suggested.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, but, I mean, would have to go through, I don't know, who would it have to go through? That's gonna be a temporary.
To throw a fabric on there?
I don't think the fabric is much of an issue. I mean, it sounds like it would be something pretty easy to take down and put back up.
Just the 2 poles and a hinge.
You don't even need a pole. You just, over the top.
No, but you have to, when we do.
Let's move on.
You just pull it down. Pull it down.
Right.
Whatever it would be, but I don't think
easy.
that's a big deal at all.
Yeah, it isn't. Maybe I'll bring you in a fabric and do a demo.
Not have to be, but I would rather it get you guys okay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. Mimi, was there anything else? Or does anyone have any questions for Mimi? All right, you're going to come back to us then with an update on the Phil Harvey photographs. Okay, 2014 calendar review and update. Am I correct, Steve? Did we not approve that last meeting? Yeah. So we're just going to cross that out. We don't have to do that again. But we do want to have a discussion. When I attended the city council meeting, there was a lot of discussion about residency requirements, and that was resolved very nicely for the Arts Commission. They saw that the Arts Commission does attend to things that benefit the city of Ojai, but extend, because so many artists live outside of the city, and so many things that happen outside are brought back into the city, that it serves us well to have the current makeup that we have, which is 4 and 3. So they're leaving us alone. Yay. And we're just thrilled to death about that. But one of the things that came up during the course of the interview process was, gee, it seems like we're just like kind of get settled in, and it's like, oh, I've got to interview for this again. So a few of us had very casually, off the cuff, said, is it possible to lengthen the term from 2 years to 3 or to 4? And the direction given to me was to put that on an agenda and put that out to all of you. So I'll just maybe start here on my right and see if anyone has any comments, starting with Michael, that they would like to make suggestions or feelings about this.
Well, I like the idea of new blood and fresh energies, but at the same time, there is a learning curve. So I would think moving to 3 years would be very valuable. 4 starts to sound entrenched to me, so I'm not sure that I would support that.
Barbara?
I agree with Michael. I like 3 years, but I think that we ought to have term limits on the commission.
Well, let's put that as a separate suggestion then. And we'll go back to that. Linda?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about this yet, so 2 years is, I think it is rather short, because you do just get your feet under you and it's time to think about it again. That isn't always a bad thing. And I guess you're not chained to the job, but for some reason you have to step away. So I guess 3 years would be agreeable to me.
I think the 3 years is good too. It seems like the 2-year terms just flip over so quickly. And, previously we didn't have to renew at all. We were basically on, for instance, I've only had one other 2 years ago. I had a review, and I'm up for a new one now. And so I think the 3 years would be better.
It's really hard to have an opinion on this right now. But 3 years sounds good. And my first day of the job, I got an extension. It was great.
I agree with everybody. I think 3 years is good, and I think having a review is good. So after the 3 years, if one wants to continue, then you have to go through the process again, and I think that's reasonable too. So I'm in favor of 3 years.
And I concur with my fellow commissioners. I thought 3 was just about right. Because right now, it's every other year you're being re-interviewed, and it's kind of like, whoa, I'm doing that again. I just do that. Yeah. So how do we ask permission to extend a term to 3 years?
Well, you're an advisory commission, so you would say that the Arts Commission unanimously agreed that a 3-year commission or a 3-year term would work very well for the commissioners and for the city, and recommend that we change the term to 3 years.
3 years.
That's all.
Would that be something that would go into the your agenda?
Yeah, you would send it to the city manager, and he would put it on the agenda.
Okay, so then I would ask Steve if you
or Steve would write it up, right.
Do we have to, should we vote on this?
Yes, I would
okay.
recommend that.
So let's
yeah.
call a vote on this, and then we're going to talk about Barbara's other point that she brought up. So would someone like to make a motion on behalf of this idea?
I move we recommend to the City Council that the Art Commission appointees be to a 3-year term.
Would someone like to second that?
Okay, second.
Okay, Roger, thank you. Any more discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're going to ask Steve to prepare something for City Council to hopefully approve on our behalf. Now, let's go to what Barbara said. Would you speak to that, Barbara?
Well, I'm just thinking about fresh ideas. And I would propose 2 3-year terms, and then you need to be off. You might only be off for, well, no, it doesn't work that way in this. But I think, I like the idea of term limits, of having a turnover.
All right, so Barbara has put an idea out there. Let's start at the other end, and let's have some thoughts and comments about that.
Well, I haven't really thought about it, but I must say, first blush, I think that's a good idea. I think beyond 6 years can be, I think new ideas, fresh ideas, as Barbara said, would be welcome, and beyond 6 years is maybe overdoing it without much thought. That's my comment.
Just a quick question, how staggered is everyone right now? So would it be this thing of, at a certain point, we lose a big chunk of people?
That's a great question, too.
There would be a way that you could go forward and stagger it, because you're right, you wouldn't want to create that type of situation, so I think there's a way to address that, but that's a good point. You would want to make sure that that's done.
Okay.
Yeah, I think now it's 4-3, so it's, 3 people 1 year, 4 people the next year, 3 people 1 year, 4, which is really, it's a lot going on.
Well, but that's a lot to lose, though.
Right.
You could change it in the first year. You could assign different years to each person, and then it would just kind of fold in.
Roger?
I'm kind of concerned that we could get enough people to fill the position on a regular basis. And I think that also, like one thing is, since most of us have, this is my 7th year, and I know Barbara's been on longer than I have, and Susan has been on for like 12 years. And I think a lot of our older people, like Barbara just came up with the Arts Ojai idea, so she's basically bringing fresh blood in after a very long career. So I don't think I really see the necessity for it. And I think also you develop a working relationship with people, and I think we're getting to be very efficient in the various committees that have had some continuity. So I don't think it's necessary.
Linda?
I would agree with what Roger said. I'm not usually in favor of term limits. I feel like if somebody's not doing a good job, that's going to show, and I think they'll lose interest. And I would hate to lose people that have been here for a while. I think Susan was here for 12 years because she was needed for 12 years, and she was ready to step down, and she did. And I really feel like we're giving up a lot when we do that. I mean, I debated this year about renewing or not because I had some personal things going on, and I decided to do it, sign up for 2 more years.
I think it might be 3 now.
Yeah, I really think if people get burned out with something like this, I think they would quit. I mean, why else would they be on the commission?
Michael?
I think that my experience here has been that people develop areas of expertise as well. Certainly that was true with Susan. I think it's true with Mimi, and certainly with Roger, with Barbara. I think to arbitrarily cut someone off in this circumstance is not to the city's benefit, so I would not support term limits.
Okay, and I'll speak to this. I'm leaning toward those of you who are mentioning becoming expert on what you're doing and developing relationships and ways of working with people. I also think about Susan and the plaque over there, that you have to serve 10 years to have your name on the plaque. So there would never be any art commissioners on that plaque if we instituted that. And I think that attrition we'll take care of it. There are people who, for various reasons, decide that it's time for them to go, and spots open up. When I came on, and Mimi and Roger came on, and Linda, and now with Heather on, and I think that happens naturally. So I think that if we're going to go that way, we really, really have to think it through really thoroughly. But right now, I would say, just go for the 3 years, and but not to ask for term limits, and to let it happen through attrition. So
I'm convinced.
I take it back. I'm convinced too.
So then, Barbara, do you want to just drop that, or do you want to bring that back?
No, we can drop it.
Okay. Well, it was an interesting thing to talk about, and to help us to think about what our role is and what we're doing, and like that. There's also some pressure. Did everybody receive a copy of the letter that came from Rob Clark to Kathleen Wold, our Community Development Director? And it was sent out on March 12, 2014. It was titled Commissioner and Board Member Attendance. And it says right there that council was going to be advised if the absent rate of any commissioner or board member exceeds 30% in 1 year. So I think our city council is putting some safeguards into place so that if somebody, not for personal reasons, because those are always excused and honored and dealt with as they should be, but if someone's just not showing up and not doing it, that there would be some pressure put for that person to step aside and let someone else step in. So, and then some of us, we're just, you get exhausted, and when that happens, and it's time for us to leave. So I think it'll happen. All right. But thank you for bringing it up, Barbara. Okay, commissioner comments.
What about the calendar review?
We did that at the last meeting, and we approved it.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry that you missed saying that. No, I mean, we said that, though, a minute ago.
Yes.
Yes, we are, but we're going to have to adjourn this meeting first. So commissioner comments comes next. Anybody? Okay. I have one comment, if no one else does, and that is Seeing Into It, Messages in Glass, Paul Marioni and Susan Stinsmuller, amen, that on Saturday, March 22nd, there's an opening reception. I don't know if anyone is planning on going. I'm looking for a ride. Where is it? This is at Crafton America Center in Los Angeles. I have not yet learned how to drive into Los Angeles. And even if I did, I don't think my car would make it, so. Take the train. Oh, my God. It's lovely. All right. Anyway, this would be a wonderful thing for us to attend. So if people are going to go and they want to have company, email me, call me. I would like to go. So no other commissioner comments. We'll go to City Council Liaison Report. That's you, Carol. Thank you for being here tonight, Mayor Pro Tem.
You're more than welcome, and thank you all for serving. I am in agreement that though the term limits would, in a sense, incentivize new people to come in, the thing is, since you get re-interviewed, let's say every 3 years, so your body of work, your attendance record would all show up. So that's another safety, that if somebody really is burnt out and doesn't realize it, that they may not get reappointed. So we do have those two safeties. And I think, frankly, institutional memory and what has gone before and what's worked is very important. So I think that, the term limits really, though the good part is, will we get new blood in, period. The bad part, though, are all the other things that we mentioned. And I am very glad that the council voted down having only city residents, since, you know what, when people move here, I didn't even know if my house was in the city or county. Right. It's not as though real estate agents make an issue of it. It's just literally people don't realize it. And even if their house is in the county, they frequently have a business in the city, mm-hmm. or have a lot to do with the businesses in the city and attracting tourism. So I'm very glad the city council did not do that. And I will thank you all for serving.
Thank you. We're going to ask Steve if he has a report.
I have just something very briefly, and this is just one piece of information I just wanted to pass along. We received it, I think, the day of the last meeting, and but it's a thank you from the Ojai Film Society for the arts grant. So I'll just pass that along for each of you to take a look at. You can just leave it at the end there, and I'll add to the file. That's all I have.
With that said, I'm going to suggest that after we adjourn this meeting, that we take a 5-minute break and that we reconvene at exactly 8:31. And we're going to have the second, we call it, whatever,
Special meeting.
a special meeting of the Arts Commission to discuss committee assignments and matters related to that. So this meeting is adjourned. 5 minutes.